Great you could join us. Now, former President John Dramani Mahama is calling for investigations into circumstances surrounding the Ghana card registration exercise in a private residence at Kaneshie. Speaking at Choco during a tour to thank the party for electing him as flag bearer, he said the ongoing exercise is a national activity which should not have been allowed to continue during unofficial hours in a private residence.
And I expect that the authorities of the National Identification Authority will take very seriously the recent case that happened. This is a national exercise. It is not a partisan exercise. It is supposed to register all Ghanaians of all walks of life, notwithstanding your political, religious, or ethnic affiliation. And so they should investigate what happened very well. It is alleged that some people were registering in the night in a private house. It is not correct for that to happen. And so we should find out what the circumstances were and make sure that it doesn't happen again. But I encourage all Ghanaians to come out and register for the Ghana card.
Now, the Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority, Professor Ken Atefa, has commended former President John Mahama for asking the NIA to investigate the complaints of malpractices that have characterized the registration process. He was, however, unhappy that sections of society are attributing some criminal activities of registration officials to President Akufo-Addo's intent to rig the 2020 elections. He spoke with me on the Super Morning Show.
I'm appealing to the Ghanaian public to assist us by being decorous and not being exaggerative. I know it is hardship that people will have to get out of their homes to go and queue, and sometimes data connectivity challenges will frustrate people. But exaggeration and bombast, such as the kind that you played at the very beginning, talking of massive fraud, when you have a scattering, 2-3 people out of about 7,000 people doing something that is criminal, attributing it to His Excellency the President Akufo-Addo supervised, all of those needlessly politicize the political, the registration environment. We need to sanitize. We need to have a more hygienic conversation about the national identification registration process. And in that sense, I commend His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama for asking NIA to investigate the allegations and also urging the generality of the public to go and register for the Ghana card. I think that is a responsible position to take. I commend him, and that is the way, the manner, the spirit in which we ought to move as a nation and reduce the needless political hype and tenor and have a more hygienic discourse. We have over 350 registration centers across West Accra, Greater Accra West. We have about 7,000 people deployed. We've been in operation since 29th of April. We have had 3 key incidents. I can even add 2, if you like, that I can tell you about. But we've had a case at Abosokai. We've had a case at Awudome, Kaneshie Awudome. There is also another one at Botiano. Now, I know of my own staff bringing to our attention a case at Midday. Now, so it's about 5 instances. Now, when you have about 7,000 people out there...
But these are the reported instances, aren't they?
Yes, but I'm telling you that the comment that the man made, the Otukono gentleman made, that comment is based on the known, the reported
known
case.
To him, because
yes.
I have listened to him speak on a number of occasions, and he often refers to people reporting to him personally. So, which is why I'm asking that maybe you have done a full survey or a study or an investigation to establish that the recorded incidents are the only incidents that have occurred. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So you have investigated to establish that these are the only incidents, irregularities in the system.
Yes. You see, we have, but before I even, yes, the answer is yes, but before I go there, Mr. Otukono's comments are based on what he knows. What he knows is what he has shared. What he knows cannot, by any stretch of anyone's imagination on the planet, establish a claim, a well-founded claim of massive fraud. That's what I'm calling attention to.
Of course, it's just a matter of words.
No, it's not a matter of words, Daniel. Excuse me. Daniel,
I'm calling it a matter of words for a reason. You'll understand when I finish.
All right.
You call it scattered. He calls it massive. I'm not saying any of you is right. I'm asking how you came to your choice of words.
I came to my choice of words on the evidentiary basis. The evidentiary basis is that, and I have even volunteered 2 more to you.
Okay.
Yes,
it's fine.
And I'm open about it because we must enlist the support of Ghanaians to make this a successful process for all of us. And when we exaggerate and we use bombast, it creates problems. Now, there is no question that out of, and even if you had 10 cases, you cannot, by any understanding, call that massive fraud.
Prof. Ateifa has also been given details of some officials standing trial for various offences.
We have about 3 people who are currently standing trial, who have engaged in various registration offences that we are dealing with. One of them is the case is in court. It has been adjourned to the 23rd. A Nigerian who posed as a Ghanaian, registered, claimed that his parents were from Keta, when indeed one parent was from Anambra and another from another Nigerian state, and had gotten the Ghana card. We arrested him. He's standing trial.
Where and when?
This was about a month ago. He has already been to court and he's been adjourned to the 23rd. I think it's court 6.
Okay.
We also have a Ghanaian who extorted 10 Ghana cedis from an applicant in a queue in order to register her out of 10, as it were, or out of time. And he confessed, a Ghanaian, registering a Ghanaian, but extorting...
I don't understand. Is he an NIA official?
NIA official, extorting 10 Ghana cedis from an applicant and registering her. It's an offense. We've reported it to the police, that sort of thing. All those...
And the third case?
And then the third case is this one at Abosokai, who 2 of them have been arrested, and it was the vigilance, as you pointed out, of our registration official, his boss, a lady, who was vigilant and saw what was going on was improper, reported to the police, and had the arrest. And the 2 of them have been taken to court and granted bail. But it is going to go on. Appropriate legal process will be taken. Ghanaians should support us to make this successful.
Away from the NIA, family members of the National Democratic Congress NDC's Dafiama Busie Isa constituency chairman Richard Polibo are asking the police to do thorough investigation to find the culprits who killed the chairman. Now, Mr. Polibo was dead and was killed by unknown assailants between Jan and Sagu after attending a funeral at Kojo Pere. The driver of the vehicle was also injured in the attack. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam joins us live. Rafiq, good afternoon. What do you know about the death of the NDC chairman?
Mr. Richard Polibo, who is the chairman of the NDC in the Dafiama Busie Isa district, otherwise known as DVI, is a perfect gentleman. He's somebody who is well respected in the community. He has 3 children, several dozens of dependents on him. And so around 12:30 a.m., this morning, he was reported to have been shot by some 4 unknown assailants between Jan and Sago. And so they were returning, according to the story that we are having from the police, and also corroborated by one of the occupants of the vehicle, which is a Mercedes Benz ML. He says that they were returning from a funeral at Kajiperi when they got between into a section of the road between Jang and Sago. That was where they met these 4 unknown assailants. And then 2 of them flashed their torchlight on them, and then the chairman, and then they thought that it was the police. So they wanted to stop, and then when they stopped and they realized that it was the police, so they asked that the driver should proceed. And so in his attempt to escape, they shot him. So they shot the driver, but the driver dodged by lying on the steering wheel of the vehicle, but the bullet got into the head of the NDC chairman. And so he was pronounced dead on arrival at the Regional Hospital. But the family members are saying that they would like the police to investigate this issue thoroughly because they think that there could be other motives apart from this issue of suspected robbery that we are talking about. And so the situation is calm, but I can tell you that at the family house of the deceased, it's one in a somber mood, and then they are grieving.
Rafiq, what happened to the driver?
The driver, he somehow, some of the pellets, of the bullets brushed his neck, and then he is currently on admission at the Upper West Regional Hospital. But there were 5 occupants in that particular car. Because when on their way, when they were coming from Kajipiri, I'm told that their vehicle got spoiled, so they have to call a friend to come and pick them. He came with a Mercedes-Benz, and then it was on that vehicle that they were 5 that they shot through. And so the driver currently is at the hospital, but and then 1 is dead, but 3 of them are still alive. And they are the people that the police are using as their principal witness to look into the case.
Does that mean then that the driver was able to drive to the hospital?
Yes, when he was shot, because I told you that the bullet brushed his neck, but and then the occupants in that particular car asked him not to proceed because there was no way waiting because they thought that the robbers were still trailing them. So the driver, even in his injured state, was able to move to the car. But let me also tell you that, Daniel, the NDC in the Upper West region, in the next few hours are saying that they will hold a press conference to speak on this issue regarding the death of their chairman, Richard Paulabo.
But you said earlier, Rafiq, that the family is demanding an investigation. What has the police been saying?
The police are saying that for now they have ruled out the issue of a political motive regarding this killing because they think that for now they think that it's an attack and that's where they are starting their basis their investigation on, and from there they will proceed because these robbers didn't take anything away from their victims, and so they are investigating on the issue. But
well, they could not have taken Rafiq. They could not have taken anything from them, right? Because they drove away.
Yeah, because they went away. So that's where they think that they need to be investigated.
Thanks, Rafiq, for joining us. He's our Upper West Region correspondent. Now, away from that part of the country, a plan by the Homeland Security Group Foundation, HSGF, to announce a secession of the Volta region from Ghana and declare an independent Western Togoland today has been foiled by a series of arrests. 8 members of the group were picked up in the Volta region capital Ho on Sunday evening by a team of armed police and military personnel and airlifted to Accra. The police said it had gathered sufficient evidence, including a constitution, national emblem and anthem prepared by the group for their supposed new country. Prior to the arrested persons appearing before an Accra High Court on Wednesday, about 30 members of the HSGF were arrested by police and military personnel. Later, the Accra High Court remanded into police custody 7 of the 8 persons arrested. Leader of the group, 85-year-old Charles Kujoji, fondly called Papavi Hogbedeto, was however granted bail to the tune of 250,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties. The 8 were slapped with charges, including treason felony. Meanwhile, Joy News' Volta region correspondent Ivy Setoji has been speaking to a cross-section of residents in that area. Here are their views on the situation.
Yes, a lot has happened, and you know, the leaders who think that what we should have as a region, we are not getting it, and then other regions are benefiting more than we. It means we have to fight for our own, and then probably if that is what is stipulated 50 years ago until now, at least we have to fight for our freedom, and then if possibly see how we can do, because other countries are doing with it. Something like Kosovo, when we had Yugoslavia, which has also been split into Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, and all those countries in Europe, Eastern Europe to be precise. I think it's happening. So when you look at what Papa V. Hubedeko is saying, it means I've also read a lot about it, and it says that yes, Ghana merged as to be part of the Western Togoland, to be precise, merged to be part of Ghana when Ghana was about to attain independence. So I think, despite the fact that we don't have much infrastructure, and this is where we are lacking behind, because since we don't have, we have to see that we can use our resources to get those infrastructures in our home.
Okay, Actually, I don't think it was right for the government to arrest these people because they are exercising their freedom of association or freedom of speech and movement. If the government should have any issue with these people, they should have invited them. After all, it's a registered organization, I should believe. This is an association. So, and these people are fighting for freedom for voter also. But then I don't believe they can just get up and declare voter region independence unless they go through the right process. But means it will be an official thing whereby government will be involved in all these things. So arresting these people, I don't believe is in the right direction because this is just going to incite people to get up negatively and do other stuff which may begin to create other bad vices in society.
Not other countries, when they demand for the independence, they are giving them. What did they have? They have farmland, they have river, the fish, and we farm. They have both fish land, water, and the farmland. So we think we can raise our own resources. I think our independence is good for us. And those that are taking the vote to jail and other things, they are not doing right.
So far, we've not heard of any of the officials of the group speak, but the last statements posted by the group was on May 6, and here are the excerpts. It reads, "We, the members of the Homeland Study Group Foundation, has read with shock the media briefing by the Ghana Police Service to explain the Rambo-style arrest they effected yesterday, the 5th of May 2019. We want to let the police service, the BNI, and all who are in the arena of Ghanaian security to up their game. We have outlived the era where you lie to win sympathy from the general public." The police in their release made mention of the HSGF operating or training people as soldiers and police. As a secretary and PRO of the foundation and a personal secretary to the executive chairman, Mr. Charles Kujoji, never have we had any discussion on forming an armed group. Our chairman has been clear on forming of any militia groups, so we always distance ourselves from any of such operations. We are a peaceful foundation and we continue to remain as such. Okay. I'm going to go to the final paragraph because there's some interesting revelations there. He says, "We have registered as the UNPO, which is an armed or wing of the United Nations with their sole responsibility of guiding nations yet to be recognized. So the Western Togoland and other unrecognized nations are part." And it's signed Nyakpo George 024. Well, he's a secretary and PR for the whole branch. Back to the president of Ghana, and President Akufo-Addo has identified road construction as the major challenge facing his government, but says steps are underway to improve selected roads across the country. Addressing members of the Upper West Traditional Council, President Akufo-Addo described as dishonest claims by former President John Mahama that his government had undertaken unprecedented road construction in the country in the run-up to the 2016 general election. According to President Akufo-Addo, this is not true.
The roads are my biggest burden in Ghana. Before I came here, I was told by my principal competitor that he had done all the roads in the country, that he had been responsible for unprecedented infrastructural development. And yet, everywhere I go, I don't think there's been one traditional palace which I've entered in or traditional authority that has talked to me which have not raised the issue of roads in the area as a principal concern. So we have to find out in these matters. It's not good for us politicians to be misleading the people. If you have not done something, don't claim it. Don't write in it. Don't write in your book. Don't make pronouncements on it. The people themselves could tell the truth of what's going on. When I had the temerity as an opposition leader to question the statement, I was met with the response that I was asleep when I was driving through the country. I'm used to insults and whatever comments are made on me. It's not today that I'll let those things get under my skin. But I think it's important that we, the political leaders of this country, exercise some sense of responsibility when we're making these claims. The Laura Tumu Hen Road is not only in the budget, but it is part of the scheme of activities that the Ministry of Road is going to roll out. So I want very much you to recognize that as things that are going to be done. I'm particularly keen that those roads that hit our borders, the trunk roads that hit our borders and that go there, be very much amongst the priorities, because they have everything to do with opening up the country for trade with our and as you know, the trade with the Burkina Faso in particular has heightened considerably, with a lot of foodstuffs moving there from Ghana. So it makes sense for us to make sure that this.
Call it the politics of stones and proverbs that succinctly capture what characterized former President John Mahama's tour of some coastal communities in the Greater Accra region. The former president was on a tour to thank the party leadership and members for voting for him as flag bearer. Now, he was met with crying women carrying stones and complaining about what they describe as failed promises by the current administration. The former president later explained that the gesture is used to express an advice which was not heeded. Maxwell Agbagba has more.
It was the NDC party chairman Samuel Ofusu Ampofu who first started singing about stones when the team arrived at Jamestown. The lyrics of the popular song loosely translates as, "What you told us has come to pass. What you told us has happened. Come for your stone."
The significance of this is that we are collecting all those stones across the length and breadth of this country to build a very solid foundation upon which our government and our party is going to rule the country come 2020.
At Choko, about 10 women carrying stones were not deterred by security personnel. Amidst wailing, they shook hands with the former president. One of them sits on the floor, ostensibly crying about unfulfilled promises.
It means a lot with the guns. The MPP came to lie to the people of Ghana, and therefore they are calling him back to come and continue the good work that he's doing. Okay, by hotel, John Mama, Pani over hotel.
An announcement for all the women to drop the stones in the center of the gathering. Former President Mahama later stepped forward to touch them. And obviously excited John Mahama spoke about the actions of the women.
Today, when I came here, I was giving a lot of stones. In our tradition, if you are giving stones, it means that you gave some advice to somebody and the person didn't take the advice, and now they are faced with the reality of what you told them. And so these stones are for everybody in NDC. We said it, but nobody, they didn't listen to us. And I think that the experience we all are going through is a lesson to all of us. Politicians must be honest. Tell the people what you can do for them. It isn't because you want political power, you make highfalutin promises that you know you cannot keep. One district, one factory, $1 million per constituency, one village, one dam, one child, one egg, one child, one chocolate, and all those things. Today, the reality is confronting us. And when you ask, where are these promises, you get no answer.
The tour will continue, and you can expect a bunch of women who are disillusioned with the current government presenting pieces of rock to the opposition leader. Maxwell Agbagba, Joy News.
Interesting developments there. Now, the infirmary as the Wa Central Prisons only exists in name. This is according to the General Yard Master of the Wa Central Prisons, Chief Officer Thomas Possible Bapule. The infirmary is without the essential drugs to take care of the inmates when they are sick. The case is even worse when the inmate is not insured by the National Health Insurance Scheme, forcing the personnel to sometimes use their own monies to take care of the medical needs of the inmates when they attend the hospital. Chief Officer Bapule disclosed this when the Wa Central executives of the NDC donated bags of rice, sugar and soft drinks to the inmates of the Wa Central Prison. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The Wa Central Prisons was established 99 years ago with 15 inmates. It has 9 cells and 5 officers. It was originally meant to accommodate 90 inmates, but currently has 226 inmates. There is congestion at the prison now, as each of the 9 cells has between 20 and 30 inmates.
If you enter the yard, you will see that the prisons are more. We don't have sitting places for them. Benches, we don't have them. Our cells too are congested. We don't have the cells, enough cells to host them. But we will just force to put them there. Some of the cells have been provided with fans, but the fans, the more it works, it wears off. And I think if we get some of those things, it will help us to take good care of them.
General Yard Master of the Wa Central Prisons, Chief Officer Thomas Possible Bapuli, speaking shortly after he received 3 bags of rice, 1 bag of sugar, and 30 cartons of soft drinks, valued at 1,500 Ghana cedis, on behalf of the Upper West Command of the Wa Central Prisons from the Wa Central Constituency executives of the NDC, lamented about the inhumane conditions at the Wa Central Prison.
Sometimes we try our best to give them some air for some time before we lock them. In the morning, 6 o'clock, we normally open the doors down. Even the doors down for air to enter for about 1 hour, then the main shift officers come and take over. That's the best we can do. If not, we cannot extend our rules of locking them.
The infirmary at the Wa Central Prisons only exists in name, according to Chief Officer Thomas Possible Bapuli, and appeal to the government and benevolent organizations to come to their aid.
It's just the name. As you mentioned, it is the infirmary, but there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And if the prisoners are sick, sometimes we'll go to the hospital. If they have the drugs, fine. If they don't have it, they will prescribe and bring it. Our big man would struggle with it for some time, and then when he gather money, then he'll buy the appropriate drugs for them.
Wa Central Constituency Secretary of the NDC, Abu Utama, said the donation to the Wa Central Prisons is in line with the NDC's policy of helping the poor and the needy.
We are in the Ramadan, which is a holy, sanitized month, during which time everybody, you think of your friends, you think of your loved ones. We have taught our loved ones, and they are the very people who are now inmates. We have come to present this small donation to them. We know it's not going to eliminate or to solve all problems of the inmates, but it will somehow eliminate or reduce the isolation depression of our brothers.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
It's now time for business, and when Daryl comes, a railway minister touts huge potential the sector holds in curbing the unemployment situation.
Thousands and thousands of jobs, and we intend to create a railway industry, not just a railway sector.
More on that when we come back.